Victoria, is everything all right? People talk, say things.
Hello?
Why didn't you tell me it was out of order? I suppose you think that's funny.
I'm not allowed out the front door.
Who says you weren't?
Them.
Who?
Them.
It was terrible out there. I could hear breathing.
We told you.
Are you worried about the man?
They hate us. That's the truth. They want to kill and torture every one of us. You can see it in their eyes.
Come now, Frederick. Do you dream about unholy things?
I really don't like what's going on here. There's something wrong, and that's a fact.
Wait. What did you dream last night? This manifestation of evil. You must be delivered from evil.
I believe you are quite aware the situation has changed since last we spoke.
The truth is still the truth, and a bargain is still a bargain.
And Mayor Cermak is now deceased.
Yes. What does that have to do with our contract?
I do not recall signing a contract with you, Mr. Allan.
We had a verbal agreement. I'm sure my uncle here will attest to that.
Nathan, please. You're being most rude.
But Dawes reacted just as I knew he would.
Lewis, as a family man, I quite understand your position. As for you, young Mr. Heller, you should not have spoken to the papers of this. It was a breach of confidence.
Nothing was said of our arrangement being a confidential one. Besides which, I was in fact discreet.
How so?
I didn't tell the reporters why I was offered the job at the fair. Void our deal, sir, and I'm going to be put into an embarrassing light. I will have to inform the press of your involvement.
This reeks of blackmail, young man.
It reeks of business. Our arrangement is binding in my view, and if you feel differently, I'll be noisy about it.
Nathan.
I'm not a big wheel like you, General, but us little wheels can get good and goddamn squeaky when we don't get our grease.
My secretary will have contracts ready for you to sign this afternoon at 4. Please return and sign them. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Robservations with Robert Meyer Burnett.
Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, your sommelier of sci-fi and cinema, your evangelist of the imagination, and of course, the perhaps never to be defined existential Mr. Rogers. That's right. Moi, Robert Meyer Burnett, and I'm, of course, Robcasting you right here from the Robservatory. You imagination connoisseurs, you members of this, the Post-Geek Singularity community. This is Robservations episode number... what is it? 1033? Wow, I think so. And yes, for those of you who want to wish me a happy birthday, my actual birthday on the Pacific Coast begins in a little less than 2.5 hours. Yes, May 15th is my actual birthday. So have at it, folks. Have at it. By the way, for anyone who's interested in Gunpla, and if you don't know what I'm even saying when I say Gunpla, that's okay. You don't have to. How excited are we for the RX-93 new Gundam? My favorite mobile suit, for anyone who's interested, from Char's Counterattack, coming out January 2026. Very excited. You know, I actually had a massive, I had like 150 perfect grade kits, most of them unbuilt, and I sold them all. And I only hung on to my perfect grade kits, and then I ended up selling those. I only have a few left, but I will get around to building them. I have of course, the Wing Gundam from Endless Waltz. I call it the Wings Gundam because it's got feathers. Yes, I have that. That's displayed over there. But I love Gundam. I love Mobile Suit Gundam. I do. I'm a Universal Century guy. I do like Wing Gundam, but I'm mostly Universal Century. So I was talking about it today. I was talking about Char's Counterattack. So there you go. If you want to know, you now know. So today was a big day, everybody. So Full disclosure, there was a point in time when I knew James Gunn. I was the associate producer. I started out as more of a producer, but I had to pull back a little ways. But I was an associate producer of a movie he wrote and co-starred in that was directed by Last of Us creator Craig Mazin, co-creator, called The Specials. And if you've never heard of The Specials, it's a superhero movie that has a terrific cast that was made for about $1 million that James Gunn wrote, and he plays Minute Man in it. Everyone thinks he's Minute Man, but he's actually Minute Man. And Craig Mazin directed it. So if you've never heard of it, look that trailer up. And by the way, people ask, what is this movie, White Devils? White Devils is a film I was a producer on that we are looking to sell. And I figured I'd just play the trailer before the show just to let people to know that it's out there. It's based on a South African writer's play, Diep Grond, if you speak Afrikaans, which I do not. I don't even know if I'm doing an Afrikaans accent. The only thing I know about Afrikaans is that Charlize Theron speaks it. And of course, Leo Getz talks about it in Lethal Weapon 2. That's the extent of it. But Diep Grond is the original play, and the movie's White Devils. So check it out. And of course, True Noir, the Assassination of Anton Cermak, the audio drama that I co-created, directed, edited, produced, is available at truenoir.co if you want to get it, all 10 episodes. Today was a big day, though. The Superman trailer dropped, and I wanted to talk about it. But before, we talked about it on the John Campea show, so some of you already know what I'm going to say. But before I get into what I think, I would like to read a letter from my very good friend, Kevin Rubio. You know Kevin Rubio he made the movie Troops, the fan film Troops, that really touched off the Renaissance, the same way that like Soderbergh's Sex, Lies, and Videotape brought in part of the indie film explosion of the late 80s, early 90s. I think Troops reignited. I mean, Ernie Fossilius' Hardware Wars is probably the granddaddy of all Star Wars fan films, let's face it. But Troops, that was back in, 79, 78. But Kevin Rubio brought it back with Troops, his Stormtrooper Cops parody that is actually canonical, a fan film that's funny but also canonical. He also wrote the Tag and Bink comics that Marvel republished, and Kevin Rubio told me he had an idea for a Tag and Bink TV series. Tag and Bink were going to appear in Solo, but they were cut out. But he told me he's going to write me this letter, and he told me that he was not pitching, but had come up with an idea, had pitched an idea, or it didn't work out, but he told me the idea for a Tag and Bink, a comedy series that would be canonical, set in the Star Wars universe. That's brilliant. I mean, Marvel did a really good job mining different genres within the MCU. Kevin Rubio is the only guy that I've ever met or that I know that I would trust to make a comedic Star Wars series that is set in the Star Wars universe that would actually work. And when he was telling me about Tag, and if you don't believe me, you can read his Tag and Bink comics because they're set canonically within the different films. And they're kind of like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. I talked about that. But yeah, good stuff. But this is a letter from Kevin. He heard me talk about my, call it, disappointment in the trailer for Superman today on the John Campea show. And he wrote me this in response. That's what it says. Roberto, you and I have been friends for more years than I care to reveal. I not only consider you a true friend and sometime business partner, but also a really good and underrated filmmaker. Oh, that's very nice. Whose insight and life experience is now shared with your YouTube audience on a daily basis. We've seen eye to eye on many a subject, and in the case of Superman, our association goes back to Superman Returns, a film in which you invited me and my friend to make a small contribution to your excellent documentary, Requiem for Krypton. Side note, if you haven't seen it, folks, you're missing out on one of the best behind-the-scenes docs ever produced. Why, thank you. Yes, it's true, I worked on Superman Returns for 2 years. So imagine my great surprise when I logged into Facebook today and saw your post, I'm disappointingly underwhelmed. Well, you can be sure as soon as I read that, I could not wait to hear your elaborations on the John Campea show this afternoon. It was not as bad as I thought it would be, but you did raise a few things that I would like to lend my thoughts to. In the opening, When Lois interviews Superman, you stated on the show, and I'm paraphrasing here, Superman doesn't get agitated and upset, and he would approach this calmly. But let's look at the scene as it's presented in the trailer. He and Lois are in an apartment, maybe hers, maybe his, maybe they share one, but they're clearly at home. Their guards are down. This is not Superman and ace reporter Lois Lane. This is Clark and Lois, a couple enjoying time together without the troubles of the world. And then it happens. The trailer opens to the line, "Are you being serious right now?" For Lois, a switch has been turned on. Her supposed boyfriend, the most powerful man in the world, the man who everyone wants to talk to, granting her an exclusive interview. In my opinion, as it plays out in the trailer, Clark doesn't see it like this. This is Clark and Lois talking. He even cracks a little joke, "Let's do it, Cronkite." The dialogue plays out as follows. Lois, Superman, Miss Lane. Note, I didn't use Clark as the character signifier because for this one moment, he's Superman. He's putting on a show for her. To him, this is fun. Heck, it may even be foreplay. But from the moment she pressed record, she was in reporter mode. All bets were off. And as the interview goes on and she continues to press him, it's clear that Clark was not ready for this Lois Lane. He's still really Clark, and he's surprised and then frustrated as she continues to outline all the ramifications and social implications of his actions. His girlfriend, the one who shares his secret, the one whom he is most close and intimate with, is telling him how to do his job. In that moment when he exploded, that wasn't Superman, that was Clark yelling at his girlfriend Lois. No matter how strong you are, how steady your resolve, we all know the one person in life who can push our buttons and knows where all the skeletons are buried. This was not an interview, it was a lover's quarrel. 2, you intimated that the trailer should have given us more worldview, wanting to know the thoughts and reactions of the president, the people. I'm with John on this one. It was a 3-minute trailer. This one's job was to introduce us to the new Superman. A montage of people voicing opinions would not have done us any favors. We've already seen diametrically opposed opinions in the boy raising the flag and the guy throwing the can in the teaser trailer. Well, those are my thoughts. Thanks for listening because, as we know, everyone has a story to tell and all you have to do is listen. Have a good day, Kevin Rubio. Well, Kevin, my friend, thank you for writing that. I very much appreciate hearing from you. Here's what I would say. And I did some research. I went back and showed Elizabeth this morning. I showed her. We watched the trailer together, and she was relatively underwhelmed. Kind of felt the same way that I did. I was very much looking forward to this trailer. Now, full disclosure, I have loved movie trailers pretty much my whole life. When I was making movies, when I was copying movies on VHS starting in really 1980, I would try and find trailers and put them in between the movies. And when I made mixtapes in high school, sometimes I would put entire movie trailers in between. I did a lot of mixtapes. I was kind of DJing, and I DJ'd in college, and I had a lot of 12-inch remixes. I was really big into 12-inch remixes. Really, back, the thing that got me into them was New Order, the Blue Monday, the 12-inch single of New Order's Blue Monday when it came in the big floppy disk. And after that, I was making, so I would make these remix tapes, and I would put movie clips. I had my Lasers player, and before that VCR hooked in, and I would put movie clips in between the songs and things like that. So I was I studied movie trailers. I mean, I've been a connoisseur and a lover of movie trailers since, I was a kid. And sometimes you'd buy like Japanese laser discs, and it wasn't on domestic discs, but sometimes Japanese laser discs would have trailers on them. And that was the first way I started to get trailers in Criterion. And there were things, the Hitchcock trailer for Psycho was a big one. Night of the Living Dead was a great trailer. So I've always loved movie trailers. And obviously I participated in John Campia's movie Trailers, A Love Story, where we actually made a documentary about movie trailers. So movie trailers are a thing that I've studied, and and I studied them because I've actually cut movie trailers as I became an editor and started working on trailers, and I even got to be in the room participating, watching, offering some opinions on Superman Returns trailers. So I have a long association with movie trailers, both mostly as a fan, but also professionally to a certain extent. And I'm always curious about how a film is going to be marketed. And now we have seen up to the trailer release of Superman, we've seen a teaser. Like, so normally a teaser trailer, now if you go back and you watch, this is pretty interesting. If you go back and you watch the first teaser trailer for Superman Returns or the first teaser trailer for Man of Steel, they're both available on YouTube. The teaser trailer for Superman Returns begins with an old legendary logo that has it's just a graphic with a sword in it before they came into their iconic legendary logo. So that's how you know it's the teaser trailer. The Man of Steel teaser trailer it's kind of like the Americana. It's like in the backyard where you see the laundry and you see the butterfly that's trapped in the fence, and you see the kid, you see young Clark with his, and then at the end Superman takes off. Both of those teaser trailers are very evocative. The music, the voiceover, the Lex Luthor voiceover, pardon me, the Jor-El voiceover. And they go in a certain direction, which is a very different direction than the direction James Gunn's promotions have gone in. And they were very mythic, and they're really leaning into the whole idea of Superman as this mythic savior type character. And they're very grounded in terms of, they're not just mythic, but Americana, especially Man of Steel, really leans into that. We're in the backyard. It's the fall. So really leaning into a certain vibe about sort of the overarching meaning of Superman in our culture. And if you watch the trailer, there's I don't know if there's a second trailer. I think there is. There's the teaser trailer, then usually teaser 1, or there's a teaser trailer, and then there's trailer 1 and trailer 2. That's kind of the format that superhero movies have been following. Now, in my mind, when you're marketing a movie, a teaser trailer is just that. Like, I think one of the great teaser trailers ever done was the teaser trailer for Alien, which not only did they shoot that, but for those of you who don't know, the movie poster, what was used to be called the key art for Alien, was the egg cracking over a landscape. That landscape in the Alien one sheet is actually it's a brownie. You can eat it. It's a chocolate brownie. And then they have the egg. That teaser trailer was just the egg cracking and the music. Alien, in space, no one can hear. In space, no one can hear you scream. Is the single greatest tagline of any movie ever, in terms of any kind of tagline. And by the way, interestingly enough, Craig Mazin, co-creator of The Last of Us and director of the specials, Craig Mazin used to write movie taglines for a living, and Craig Mazin wrote the tagline for Tony Scott's Crimson Tide. Danger runs deep. Another great tagline. By the way, that's why you come to this channel, to find out these weird little bits of trivia. But it's true. But anyway, in space, no one can hear you scream, in my mind, is the single greatest tagline for a movie. Those used to be an art form, and they were part of, like, I love that. You know, Superman 2. I had the Superman 2 one sheet on my bedroom wall. I had the original Superman one sheet, but I had Superman 2. And see, now I'm drawing a blank on it. But on the Superman 2 one sheet, it said the 3 criminals from Krypton descend to Earth to confront the Man of Steel in a cosmic battle for world supremacy. I mean, that's not really a tagline, but that's what it said on that baller Superman 2 poster with Superman, and then not the teaser poster, but the actual one sheet. I love that. So when we've seen the teaser trailer, so anyway, the if you look at the ad campaigns for both Superman Returns and Man of Steel, they both go in the same direction. And the thing about James Gunn's Superman, clearly his Superman is not meant to be set in our world. And what I mean by that is, one of the things I loved about the MCU, and one of the things I really liked about like Christopher Nolan's Batman and Man of Steel, I'm a big fan of Man of Steel, is that they are set in our world today. Like it's not. We're supposed to believe that if we looked outside, Superman might be there. But James Gunn's Superman is a totally different vibe. He's got that Max Fleischer, Kurt Swan, moving up to Crypto was created in 1955 by Otto Binder and Kurt Swan. And there is that whole Silver Age super science, superheroes are normal, aliens are known, kaiju exists, giant monsters exist, super science exists. So in my mind, that's already a very different approach that James Gunn is making, which I love. I can't wait to see it. And everything up until today's trailer, I've liked. I really liked CinemaCon, where we got to see at CinemaCon. They showed us the extended preview that they put out. Remember, the extended preview that they put out for Superman that was crypto-centric was released, and as my friend Rob G pointed out, it was released to be attached with really Minecraft the movie. So they were leaning into going for the family audience and younger kids, the younger audience. That's why they started out with a crypto-centric campaign. And at CinemaCon, that crypto scene in the Fortress of Solitude, it was twice as long. We got to see a lot more stuff. And as I've said on the show, the thing at CinemaCon, you got to see how crypto had ravaged the interior of this Fortress of Solitude. It was a mess. And you got to hear more commentary from the robots of what they actually thought of crypto. And it was great stuff. It was really, really, really good stuff. And really enjoyed it. So we know the tone of the movie. What I really wanted from this full-on trailer, and remember, we're 2 months away from James Gunn's Superman, and an incredible amount is riding on this movie. They have wrapped Supergirl. They have the Lanterns, which is being made. Creature Commandos. Peacemaker is now in the DC universe, and that's about to drop. So the James Gunn's iteration, the entire DC studios, remember, Peter Safran and James Gunn are running a sub-studio underneath Warner Brothers umbrella, but it is a studio unto themselves. And they have all these plans. They have committed to the Gods and Monsters phase of their universe. So never before in Hollywood history, I think, has anyone gone as all in. I mean, maybe you could say Bob Shea went all in on the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but even he wasn't investing. I mean, I know it was 99. He wasn't investing as much money as Warner Brothers is putting forward. I mean, two Super People movies, already, the Lantern series, Peacemaker, Creature Commandos, however many drafts they do of Clayface. But it's good they're doing another draft. It's good that they've done that, Anthony. It's real good. But so what I wanted from this trailer. Now, you have to understand, I'm talking about a trailer. Am I less enthusiastic about James Gunn's Superman? No. I'm a huge fan of James Gunn, and I'm a huge fan of his creativity. I have his novel, his very dark novel, The Toy Collector. I bought it when it first came out. I loved his Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. I think it's one of the strongest film trilogies maybe ever. It's definitely in the conversation in the top 20 trilogies of all time, certainly. I love Slither. I loved Super. Not as much as I love Slither, but I did like Super. And I know people talk about rewrites and all that. James Gunn rewrote a movie. Dawn of the Dead is one of my favorite movies of all time. And James Gunn rewrote it, and Zack Snyder remade it. And I was one of those people like, I will never go see this film ever. How dare they besmirch the memory of one of the greatest films ever made? I was so against that film, and I went into a theater. And as you all know, if you've watched this channel for any length of time, I liked it. Despite everything. So look, I don't go into a Star Trek movie wanting to hate it. I wanted to hate Dawn of the Dead. Really did. And it won me over. Despite my hate. I loved Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead. It's not Romero's Dawn of the Dead. But it's a very good movie, and it was a great riff, and it was very clever, and it did a lot of really interesting things with the Dawn of the Dead franchise, or Dawn of the Dead idea. I guess it was a franchise by then. But still, liked it, enjoyed it. So I'm a fan of James Gunn. I thought this new trailer was not good. I didn't think it was a good piece of marketing. And I understand what Kevin Rubio was saying, but Kevin Rubio was judging this trailer as if it were a movie. And he was talking about, oh, I understand what the scene is and all that, but maybe I would imagine that scene, and we've heard that scene, that interview scene, is like it's a lot longer. So what we were watching was two pieces of a something. I'm sure that conversation plays out and it's much longer. And we saw the beginning of it, and then we saw maybe 5 minutes into it when Clark was annoyed. I thought it was a bad trailer. And the reason I thought it was a bad trailer was, when you have trailers and when you're making trailers, for instance, I'll give you a little insight in how trailers are made. Like from an editor, at least I can tell you how I have made trailers. What I do when I cut a trailer is I string together. Usually, I'm given a copy of the movie where you have there's what's an M&E track, a music and effects track, or you just get dialogue. Somebody said to me that maybe the reason that my shows get cut off is somebody goes into my channel and actually reports. I didn't know if this was but they report my streams just to fuck with me. I don't know if that's true, but it's odd to me that this never used to happen. I never, and for whatever reason, for the last, maybe there's somebody that just has it out for me, which, is very possible. But it's weird that these kinds of things happen on my channel. I don't know hey, if it's somebody out there reporting me, I hope you're having a good time doing it. But anyway, so when you cut a trailer, what I do is I pick quotes from the film and you string them out onto a timeline. And what I try and do is build a trailer around, like, to me, a great trailer kind of tells its own story derived from the movie, but you're trying to make a point. You've got 2 minutes, usually 90 seconds to 2 minutes, to sort of convey. A great trailer has a beginning, a middle, and an end. You're telling a story. It's the same way that a movie does. Nowadays, for superhero movies, and I understand this, they're taking footage from a few scenes because that's all they want to give away. They don't want to give away the whole movie. So as you have seen with the James Gunn Superman trailers, we keep seeing the scene inside the stadium. We keep seeing the scene with the kaiju. We keep seeing the scene where he has things thrown at his head by angry people. We're seeing derivations of those same scenes. And we've seen that in the teaser trailer. We've seen that in the special preview. And they do that so they don't give away a lot of the movie. But when you get your first trailer, the first trailer usually conveys something more about the story that you're watching. Like, what is this movie about? We know it's a Superman movie. We know Lex Luthor's in it. We know Lois Lane is in it. But if you look at what's going on in these trailers, there's nothing we haven't seen before. I mean, there was even a stadium scene in Superman Returns. There's all kinds of things. There was one shot in this trailer that I loved that I hadn't seen before. And that was the parting, I call it the parting of the Red Sea shot. For whatever reason, something crashed right outside, right on the seashore. And it opened up the sea to the point where there's a huge divot, like the land had been thrust up. So now there's a channel in whether it's the ocean, wherever Metropolis is, if it's off New York Harbor, whatever. That was cool. I'm like, oh, I liked that. But so when you line up these pieces of dialogue, what you want to do is tell whatever story you're telling by checkerboarding different people talking. And that's one kind of trailer. Not every trailer's like that, but that's kind of the trailers that I've worked on. It's a story trailer, and those story trailers usually have a title. Like when they're shipped, whether they're sent to a theater, it might just be trailer 1 or whatever. But if you were sending it to a TV station, usually those trailers have a title of some kind, and the title refers to something about the trailer, like Superman, Man of Tomorrow, trailer 1, or something. There's a trailer title, and it would usually have to do with the kind of trailer it was. So you string out, and within 90 seconds or 2 minutes, you have dialogue that tells a tale. And then you intercut footage from that. And you can tailor those story. It depends what you want to follow up on. My problem with the Superman trailer that we saw today was I didn't feel that, one, that it told us much more about the story that we didn't already know. We know that Superman, for whatever reason, people are mad at him. I thought what was really the idea of overreach, like Superman doing things, getting involved in international affairs, really interesting. Now, we saw that in a bit of Man of Steel, but the idea, and we've seen it certainly with the Sokovia Accords and in the Avengers, the idea of international affairs being, if the Avengers are U.S. based, why are they going to Sokovia and fighting? I mean, obviously they were fighting Ultron, but their actions have consequences. That's really interesting fodder for superhero films. I mean, I welcome that. But I did not, and remember, I'm analyzing a fucking 3-minute trailer, so I know that the conversation that I'm having with you right now is ridiculous, and to be over-analyzing a trailer is dumb. I just thought this trailer, for me personally, did not deliver what I hoped it was going to deliver, which was more of a sense of what the movie was about. Because once you have that little snippet, like if I was making that trailer, you hear from Jonathan and Martha Kent, which was great, but again, we've seen that before, it's expected. But you could have had, like, I would have picked 3 different moments from the interview that Clark and Lois were having. So you could start with the interview, trailer, other voices. You return to that interview and you end with that interview. And so, and again, this is just me. If I was as an editor and filmmaker, this is what I would have done with the trailer. And then I would have intercut a little bit more Lex Luthor. Like, we hear him say Superman, we hear a little bit of that, but that we already know that about Lex Luthor. What is unique about Lex Luthor to this particular movie? And I wanted to hear like a signature phrase or something that he says where you go, oh my God, I gotta hear that. That's a great line of dialogue. And I felt that this trailer was generic, and then we just saw more footage of what we've already seen. There was nothing, they didn't give us the twister shot at the end. They didn't give us the shot. I mean, Superman taking off, that's fine, but that is the most, in a way, it's the most cliche Superman stuff you can possibly see. You know what I mean? Now, all of it's great. I love the comic look of it all. I love the Silver Aginess of it all. I love the super science, and I love the technology. I love the direction of it. I love the shots. Everything that I'm looking at. I love the design work. I love all that. And by the way, the costume looks great on camera. And by the way, I'm sure there's a reason why he's wearing the costume he's wearing. And I know people don't. Look, it's an aesthetic thing with Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill is he's like a hot model as Superman. He's this beautiful man that we all want to be. I get it. David Cornsweet, who looks great to be, he's going to be a great Superman. I think he's already terrific in the role. He inhabits the suit. I think he's great. But he's not the male ideal that we all fantasize about. I mean, he's a very handsome man. He's in great shape and all that, but he's too everyman, I think, whereas Henry Cavill is not. Henry Cavill is like the ideal Ubermensch that we all hope we could be. I get it. I totally understand. It's an aesthetic thing. I get it. We live in an internet world where people are running around calling beautiful supermodels mid. So I get it. I totally understand where everyone's coming from. Everyone's living in their Instagram filtered fantasy world. And Henry Cavill is the Instagram filtered, even though he's not a filter, that was him. I get what people are saying. I know it. I understand. But David Cornsweet is the Superman that fits that movie. And I'm still very excited about the film. But as a trailer, again, I felt the trailer was lacking because it was sort of directionless. It started out, I'm asking for something that I would have done differently. because I think it smacked of, I mean, James Gunn doesn't want to give anything away, and he oversees the trailer. The marketing department looks at it too. I just think that the marketing departments at studios these days, they're all terrible. There are people that don't know the difference. They don't know about how good trailers are cut. They're not looking. They just don't know. Now, compare and contrast that with the F1 trailer that just got released. Now, that's a fucking trailer. They knew exactly how to get me in. I mean, I've seen the first 10 minutes of F1. By the way, my friend in Exhibition saw F1. Saw it. I'm going to get to that. I want to talk about it. I talked to him today, my friend in Exhibition, and he saw F1 in IMAX, and he said it's a banger. He said it's absolutely incredible, and you can tell it's going to be incredible from that trailer. The thing about Superman now is they shouldn't leave you with a question. Trailers, especially in the modern day, should leave you breathless with anticipation. The problem, I thought, with the Superman trailer today was, and I feel the same way about Fantastic Four, by the way. Fantastic Four is not, I want Fantastic Four to be good. They haven't convinced me. And I'm an easy lay for the MCU. But they have not convinced me. I'm not convinced by anything I've seen from Fantastic Four, which I find to be puzzling. After coming out with that A24 style trailer for Thunderbolts, I'm like, that was some marketing. That was some marketing. I will say this. The last Fantastic Four trailer works way better on the big screen than it does on the internet. And that's another thing that I think people aren't taking into consideration either. That sometimes there's different mediums. Sometimes it's good to rejigger your scripts or your edits to better be seen on the internet, which is well, it costs more money. So, because you have to have people cutting these things. But that's my thoughts on the Superman trailer. Has it diminished my enthusiasm for the movie? Not at all. I think Superman is going to be an incredible, great time at the picture shows. I can't wait for it. And I say that because James Gunn has not let me down with his films. I mean, I have been wildly entertained by all of his movies. Slither and Super were $3 million movies. I've loved all three Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and I like Guardians of the Galaxy 2 more than most. I mean, I found its idea of broken families coming together and or people dealing with their broken families and finding, that I'm a sucker for the family that we've made together as our true family. And I think James Gunn did a terrific job bringing those people together and making them a family. And I thought Guardians of the Galaxy 2 really, really did a wonderful job of doing that. And I love The Suicide Squad. I really did. Now, okay, yes, as an old school Justice League fan, to see Starro show up in a movie, I never thought I'd see that in my life. So there are things that James Gunn is able to do. He's able, look, if you as a filmmaker can humanize King Shark, and you can make me feel pathos and emotion for him when he's looking, outside a bus window and he sees two people who are clearly in love in the alleyway of a building, and you can go, oh, poor King Shark. He's never going to find the love of his life. I'm like, that filmmaker knows what they're doing. So I have all my trust in James Gunn, so I can't wait to see Superman. It's just this trailer did not impress me. And I thought they really, especially this film, I think it really needed. Now, to be fair, I seem to be in a minority of one. Everyone loved this trailer, and that's great. I think that's fantastic. Everybody loved it. John loved it. Kevin Rubio loved it. Everybody loved it. I thought it could be better, and I thought it could have sold this movie more. I thought we needed to know more about, other than the fact that we know it's Superman, in this day and age, when what is exciting for people, we got to get people into the movie theaters. We've got to get people deliriously excited about this movie. And I think a lot of people are. Look, did I like the ending with Krypto on Superman's chest? Certainly I did. The problem was that image did not leave me with something I didn't already know I was going to get. They've leaned into Krypto in the marketing. We've now seen it 3 times. What that final shot, I think this trailer needed that twister shot with the cow. Boom. Everyone knows what that twister shot is. You go, the twister shot at the end of the Twister trailer. And I know that became a thing. And I get that what they're leaning into, but at the end of the Superman movie, the idea that Superman has a great relationship with his dog is great, and I understand that's a lot of James Gunn talking about his own dog, Ozu, which I have no problem with, and I love the fact that his dog's name is Ozu. What a great name for a dog. I had cats, and I figured for the rest of my life I would call my cats after my first cat was Kubrick. It was a girl, too. I called her Kubrick. And when we first got our dog, I wanted Gilbert. I named him Truffaut, but he wasn't a Truffaut. So Gilbert, and he was much more of a Gilbert, and Elizabeth named him Gilbert. And I'm like, she let me name him Truffaut. And then it was like, you know what? He's not a Truffaut. This dog is not a Truffaut. An animal needs to tell you the animal itself needs to inform. You can't name an animal before you get him. You just can't. It doesn't work. And I wanted to name this dog Truffaut, and then we got him. I'm like, this dog, after a couple days, I finally went to Elizabeth, and I just said, this dog is not Truffaut. It doesn't work for me. And she came up with the name Gilbert, or Gilbert, because she's French. And I'm like, that's the name of this dog. And he is. He's a Gilbert. And anyway, so I don't know if any of this makes sense to all of you out there. You know, I didn't love this trailer for a number of reasons. I hope I articulated them. I want to love it. I know this movie is going to be good. I think this movie, if nothing else, it's going to be wildly entertaining, and it's a huge swing, and I'm a huge fan of James Gunn, and I want to see this movie work. Because, you know, I felt the same way. What's interesting to me is, look, I worked on Superman Returns for 2 years. I've heard all the different kinds of opinions about it, and the trailers for Superman Returns are all bangers. The teaser and the trailers they release are amazing. I think the trailers, for what they are, promised feelings and emotions the movie aspired to but might not have delivered, even though I dearly love Superman Returns. And I think if Brian was ever able to restore the Friends and Family cut that's about a half an hour longer than what was released, people would hold it in higher regard. I think it was a much more fulfilling film, but because no one really said anything for the first 25 minutes, the studio kind of panicked and they had to cut it down, which is too bad. But I would like to one day see them revisit that, and I know Brian would be keen. And I have another 1,500 hours of behind-the-scenes footage. I'd like to make our 3-hour documentary 6 hours, but I don't know if anybody would be interested. But I'd love to do it. Anyway, that's my thoughts on the Superman trailer. So there you go, kids. Now, I want to read some articles that I found about Superman, and just to think about the character of Superman. First of all, let me jump in and see what people might be saying here. Laser Bobby Jr. throws in a $3 tip. Thanks for that. Hey, Pops, happy birthday and an early absentee Father's Day. I know that you're probably scared and confused finding out that you have offspring, but you shouldn't be. Our family curse is broken. I did not inherit the micro dick. Do I have a micro dick? I don't know. You know, it's not the hugest. Like I've said, I don't have a porn cock, but it's certainly been getting the job done, and it still works great. So there you go. So thanks, Laser Bobby Jr. Clearly you know my past, so thank you for that. Much appreciated. So let's see what else we got cooking here. We've got Joshua Gonzalez says, Rob, I saw Say Anything. It's great. Well, that's good. I'm glad you saw it. In Your Eyes. I love Say Anything. What a terrific film. And you know what? It's surprisingly, going back, and it's not just a teen comedy. There's a lot more going on in that film than I remembered. Scott Bartholomew says, people should not compare past iterations with Gunn's vision. It's his vision, not a revision of the past. It looks badass. Well, I agree with that, but there is an expectation with the character of Superman. I mean, hell, man, I started watching, as I said, Superman when I was a kid, before Superman the movie came out in 1978. George Reeves was my Superman. And, you know, he looked like my dad, kind of. John from New York says, one of two, happy birthday, Rob. I really liked the Superman trailer, but I struggled to see what the story is. I agree. I still feel it very much is multiple stories in one. I also agree with that. Garrett Groover says, what do you think of the encore cut of Crocodile Dundee removing offensive jokes? First of all, I don't agree with that at all. If they can release Mel Brooks's Blazing Saddles and not touch it, they can release Crocodile Dundee. We have to get over it. We really, look, this infantilization of Western civilization has really got me down. If we can't deal and come to grips with the way we are and the way we still are, the jokes we told were the jokes we told. And if we can't handle it, the problem is not the movie's problem. The problem is our problem. I do not like censorship. I do not like this. Like, who's to say what jokes are offensive when? And if a joke is offensive, is that the joke's fault? You know, and people are pulling jokes out. I think it's ridiculous. And I think there's pushback. I wrote to Diabolic DVD. I said, you know what? I disagree with selling censored material. You have to push back in every way, shape, and form because, you know, all of that is fashion of the time. You should always push back against it. I will not buy that Crocodile Dundee film with edits cut out of it, nor should you. John from New York with a $20 super chat says, the film has the feel of a Morrison All-Stars Superman or Jeff Johns Action Comics run in the mid-2000s. This might be the most accurate comic book movie ever. Whether that's good or bad has yet to be determined. I agree. I love that it's leaning into the fantastical comic book nature of it all. I think it's great. Port Film Co-op says, they're sick of my endless interest in kids' movies. Do I have an endless interest in kids' movies? Well, I'll tell you one thing. We're going to start Cinema Palette. My friend Rob and I are going to start a show called Cinema Palette, and the first episode is probably going to be about Krzysztof Kieslowski. But my endless interest in kids' movies. No, I mean, these are the bankable, successful movies that people are talking about. And, I mean, if you want to come, let's see. Within here we go. Here's a Patrice Leconte film that I have right here. Here's Lee Tamahori's Once Were Warriors. Is that adult enough for you? Let's see. Here's an excellent blaxploitation film directed by Gordon Parks. I love this movie so much. 3 the Hard Way, which just came out. God damn, look at these guys. Jim Brown, Fred Williamson, and Jim Kelly. Look at that. This, by the way, this movie fucking kicks ass. So, you know, I don't know what to tell you. What do you want me to say? Here's a box set of V Cinema. These were direct-to-video Japanese crime films that have been collected into one box set from the direct-to-video era. There's even a female Scorpion movie that I haven't seen before that's part of this collection. So, you know, I put it there. Last Tango in Paris, right there. New 4K version. So, if you're sick of my endless interest in kids' movies, why do you watch the channel? Or why don't you tune in and watch Let's Get Physical Media, where we talk about all this stuff? DUI Champ says, hey, Rob, after hearing Superman is a return to the Chris Reeve vibe, I bumped hard into him snapping at Lois. Totally agree. Oh, that was something I didn't elaborate on. Superman has been a human being since he was a kid. If anything, because of his super strength, super abilities, he would know control. And do you think that Superman wouldn't know that his actions would be criticized if he's stopping a war around the world, that he wouldn't be criticized by the government or in the newspapers? I didn't buy that. That's why I think it was two parts of a conversation cut together. That was something that I just didn't believe. It shattered my verisimilitude in the character. And I bumped on it. I bumped on it as well. If all the baddies have superpowers, is soup really that super? Crypto better make it. I think that's another thing. If there are superheroes already and you have the authority and you have Maxwell Lord-sponsored Justice League group. They're going to get involved in all kinds of things. So this idea, Superman should be definitely prepared to work on the world stage. Remember, he spent, 12 years in the Fortress of Solitude learning about all the information from the 28 known galaxies in the Donner Superman? So when he gets angry and loses his cool like that, Superman, I felt that wasn't, even though, as Kevin Rubio pointed out, that was Clark and Lois. But look, Clark has to be a Zen Buddha. That's part of what makes Superman Superman. He's aware of all of our shortcomings, and he doesn't give in to them. D's Weebos says, the reason I hated the Superman trailer was because it was all over the place and still told us nothing about the movie. Totally fair. And I totally, I'm right there with you. I wanted more about the movie. I really did. I did. So I agree. Yes. Stephen Langford, $20 super chat. Thanks, buddy. It's after midnight in my time zone. You thought I'd forget about your actual birthday? Happy birthday, Rob. I hope the day where both your feet are in the grave never comes. We need you healthy, alive, and above ground. Well, I'll tell you, I feel pretty good. Hey, I feel like I'm in great shape, and the micro penis apparently still works. So what are you going to do? Sounds awesome. Thank you very much. Life is good. I'm enjoying myself immensely. Justin Channel says, happy birthday, RMB. A trailer is like a job interview for a trailer. First open with Superman bloody in the snow. In this, Soup slashes out like a kid. We hope still Gunn can do more than jokey ensembles. I think he can. I do think he can. Bajaro3 says, Man of Steel and the Superman Return trailers felt mythic because it's just him. The Ringer argued if it underperforms, then Warner Brothers might pivot to more original IP like Sinners and Weapons. Well, the thing about original IP is, again, it's riskier. I think Weapons, by the way, is going to be a banger. I really do. And Sinners, obviously, is still burning up the box office charts, which is great. Zachary Zabali says, Cornsweet's voice is high even as Superman and not Clark, and not feeling the costumes, they don't feel otherworldly. Well, I think Superman's costume is not otherworldly on purpose. I think that's a plot point. Whereas the Superman costume in Superman or in Man of Steel was otherworldly. I think that's the point of this Superman. I think that's going to be a plot point, to be honest. James Bonner says, hey, Rob, hearing Star Wars fanfare and Andor end credits took this Star Wars adult right back to 1977, and being 11 years old, I actually choked up. Yeah, man, I got to tell you, I always listen to the end music, and, I cannot stand, why do they do this? You're watching the credits start, and the box goes small, and you have to oh, shit, I have to click on the box to get the credits back. When the end Star Wars music came on in the credits, I started crying when the Force Healer, the Force Doctor, showed up and cried all the way through Bix, and then the credits. And then when the Star Wars music actually hit in the end, how great was that? It was so great. And I'm so glad that they did that. We got a little May the Force Be With You from Bail Organa. How great was that? That was fantastic. And then we got the Star Wars theme. Fucking loved it. James Bonner goes on to say, he already said that. And I already said that for him. So 100%, I totally agree. Indeed. And it was awesome. Man, did I love Andor. Oof. Boy, did I love that show. Which is great. Anyway, let's see. I was going to read these articles. I have 2 articles about Superman that I found to read. And one is very interesting. So here's this article. It is from Girl on Comic Book World. And this was written 11 years ago, November 24th, 2014. Girl on Comic Book World, discussing the world of comic books, film, TV, and actual comics. I'd never seen this before. I looked it up. This is by Nav K, and it was written on November 24th, 2014 by Nav K. And I thought it was interesting because Man of Steel, a little commentary by a woman. Here goes my Superman character analysis. Although he is arguably the most well-known and famous superhero, he is definitely not the most loved or understood. Many people view him as boring and uninteresting and find characters like Batman and Spider-Man to be far more intriguing and complex. Superman is the guy that just punches things, right? Wrong. There's a lot more to the character of Superman than you may think. So today, I want to get a little deep and get into a Superman character analysis. Superman is my favorite superhero. When I tell some people that, they ask, why? Isn't he boring? Well, that's why I wanted to write this Superman character analysis, to just get out how I personally feel about him. And just like any analysis, my analysis of Superman is purely subjective, and you may or may not disagree with what I'm going to say. And you know what? That's perfectly okay, so bear with me. This may turn out to be a really long post, but when you're passionate about something, you can't help but talk about it for a very long time. First of all, I want to give you my answer to the age-old question of, what is Superman's real identity? Let's look at this quote from Kill Bill. Superman didn't become Superman. Superman was born Superman. When Superman wakes up in the morning, he's Superman. His alter ego is Clark Kent. His outfit with the big red S, that's the blanket he was wrapped in as a baby when the Kents found him. Those are his clothes. What Kent wears, the glasses, the business suit, that's the costume. That's the costume Superman wears to blend in with us. Clark Kent is how Superman views us. And what are the characteristics of Clark Kent? He's weak, he's unsure of himself, he's a coward. Clark Kent is Superman's critique on the whole human race. That is, of course, Bill himself, the great David Carradine, saying that. So if you've read Superman over the years, then you know there are two very different characterizations of Superman. You have your Superman who uses Clark Kent as a secret fake identity, with Superman being his real identity. This can be seen in many of the older Superman comics where Clark Kent is a bumbling fool. This is what the Kill Bill quote is describing. This Superman that apparently uses the Clark persona to demonstrate how Superman views humans. Personally, I think that's complete bullshit. Superman loves humanity and doesn't seek to emphasize the flaws in humanity, but rather seeks to emphasize the strengths in humanity. This is why the current Superman characterization makes much more sense in my eyes. Superman, at the end of the day, didn't grow up on an alien planet. He grew up here on Earth as a human. He grew up as Clark Kent. He is Clark Kent. In the current characterization of Superman, I guess would this be the New 52? Clark Kent may be his secret identity, but it's also who he is. Superman is also who he is. There is no fake identity. They are both aspects of who he is. Why would someone who grew up as Clark Kent with values and ideals instilled onto him as Clark Kent use Clark Kent as a fake persona? It never made sense in my eyes, which is why the old Clark Kent characterization never really resonated with me. By the way, the Clark Kent in The Adventures of Superman with George Reeves, that Clark Kent was a fucking baller. He wasn't bumbling at all, and he would scoop Lois whenever he could. And that was what I grew up with. And then I read the comics as well. It was only until they stopped pursuing this idea of Clark Kent supposedly being the fake identity that I was able to actually care about this character more. Okay, now that we have that out of the way, let's move further into this Superman character analysis. Many people think that Superman's character is too perfect. He works alongside a moral absolute and does everything right all the time. And that's pretty much his character. But in reality, that isn't quite the case. A big aspect of his character, which I discussed before in my A Thesis on Man of Steel post, is that Superman screws up a lot. He isn't perfect. He isn't always sure what to do or what he's doing is right. He has the right intentions, but doesn't always make the right actions and decisions. However, he learns from his mistakes and he evolves. This reflects the way of thinking of humanity. Ben Saunders, who wrote the great Do the Gods Wear Capes novel, says that the frequent disparity between our moral intent and the results of our actions remain a sticking point within every ethical system yet devised, as no human society has yet managed to resolve or transcend the structure of inequality and exploitation that are the real evils. Basically, we don't always know the outcome of our actions, but most of the time we do have the right moral intent. There is no definitive right way of doing something, and Superman knows this, but as time progresses, society often does have a collective imagining of what is good or right. And as time progresses, Superman strives to achieve that the best he can. Superman is a character that evolves with the time. Now let's get a little philosophical with this Superman character analysis and compare the character of Superman to the characteristics and lessons deemed from Nietzsche's Übermensch. Nietzsche. Now, if you haven't heard of Nietzsche, he's pretty much this crazy philosopher who said a bunch of stuff about the meaning of existence and humanity and blah, 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 blah. This is my mind. I mean, I know this article was written in 2014, but this is my mind, in my mind, what everybody in high school today says. I don't know if you've ever heard of Nietzsche, but, you know, he just said a bunch of blah, blah, blah stuff that people to this day are trying to figure out what he meant. I think people know. Übermensch is one of the most famous things that he discussed. Its rough English translation is overman or Superman. Now, obviously, this whole Übermensch concept came along long before Superman was created, but what is discussed in his writings of the Overman can be applied to the character of Superman. There is no definitive stance to what he really meant when he talked about Übermensch, but the basic idea is as follows. Übermensch is an independent individual who has the power to not let the external concepts such as law or religion completely define his moral standings. The Übermensch finds value in their life experience. He is not a slave who seeks guidance from the masters of the world. He is not a master who intends to force his views onto others and dominate them, and he is the master of self-discipline. Sounds a little, that's a great piece of Superman art, by the way. Who's that? Is that Jim Lee? I can't tell. Sounds a little confusing, I know. You would have read all his work over and over again to get a real grasp what he's trying to say about the Übermensch, but that was about the basic gist of it. Ben Saunders describes the Übermensch as an independent individual who has the power to banish herd instincts from his mind and become a master of self-discipline. In his work, Nietzsche described the Übermensch through a number of allegories, which ultimately, in my eyes, set out to tell the following. Pain cannot be avoided and should only be embraced. In Nietzsche's work, he talks a lot about pain. At the end of the day, many of us won't be able to avoid pain, so Nietzsche thought it was important for us to accept that pain is inevitable and embrace it. Easier said than done, right? Basically, he wants us to embrace pain because it is through a difficult experience that we become resilient and to also learn to appreciate life more. Marilyn Monroe once said that things go wrong, that you can appreciate them when they're right. And really, you learn to appreciate happiness a lot more after you've been through a lot of pain. And this is what Superman does. Superman has been through a lot of pain and is constantly in pain, but he doesn't allow that pain to overcome him. That would be emotional pain, though. The obvious source of his pain comes from the fact that he is the last son of Krypton. His birth family and their planet were completely destroyed, and that has always been a source of alienation for Clark. However, growing up in a loving family with plenty of friends, that pain is alleviated a bit. But in reality, Superman is in pain all the time. I don't believe that. He is always hearing the pain of the millions of people on Earth crying out for help. That I do believe. He deals with that emotional burden all the time. He deals with the fact that even though it may seem like he has the power to save everybody, he can't. A lot of the time people die because of his actions. We saw that in Man of Steel. Well, that's true, but I think that Superman came to grips with that when he was a kid. That's just life. You also have those stories where parts of society hate on Superman because they think he doesn't have the right to decide who lives and who dies. People riot when Superman doesn't save their loved ones, but he saves another. So he is forced to deal with that pain as well. It is very overwhelming, and he can easily let that pain take him over, but he doesn't. He accepts that pain and learns to become resilient to it, but doesn't take it for granted either. That pain directs his actions and thoughts, so that the great implications of his being the pain directs his actions and thoughts so that the great implications of his being never become an oversight for him. I don't know what that means, but okay. We cannot accept just any truth told to us by external authorities. This is actually a really long article, and I won't read the rest of it, but the link is down below, and you can read it if you want, because this goes on and on and on. But I do think it's a good article. And I think that, it was interesting to find that article from 2014. But that's the whole thing. I mean, I think that the character of Superman is supposed to be our vision or version of what the perfect person is, male or female. And that's what Superman is. Superman combines all of that into one thing. He's limitlessly powerful, and yet he's still another power that he has is empathy. But he had to learn that empathy by being brought up on Earth by a good mother and a good father. So part of what was always built into the Superman mythos is the idea of family. Now, I'm an adopted kid. I'm an adopted kid. I was adopted. I was bought and paid for, and I was living with my parents from the time I was a week old. Now, I always knew that I was adopted. It had no bearing on me, or at least I thought it didn't have any bearing on me. Growing up, I was not, I used to fantasize that I was secreted away on this planet by some alien race, and that one day I would become and assume my birthright as the king of an alien planet. And you know what? Could still happen. Could totally still happen. Hasn't happened yet, but I used to think about that when I was a kid. But then again, I had good parents and a good upbringing, so I couldn't feel bad about that. But that's what Superman is. He is the product of an American nuclear family upbringing. And that is built into his character, created in the 30s, and that is part of it. Superman is ultimately the ultimate American. And at the end of the day, now I understand as we've become a more global society and American pop culture has permeated the world, that it's not necessarily as cool to say that Superman is in fact American. But it is true. The character was designed, I think, to be the ultimate American. Truth, justice, and the American way. Superman holding an American flag is not something to be shunned. It's something to be embraced, I've always thought. And I think that whatever your political affiliation is, and everybody is welcome on this channel, as long as people are polite. And I would ask people also if I bring up, reminds me, if I bring up somebody that I say is a friend of mine on this channel, I would appreciate the common courtesy that even in the comments for my shows, that you take that into consideration, that try and at least be polite. You might disagree with me. You might not like somebody. But if I like them, please take into consideration that I've said that on the show. And if you want to be a contrarian, you can, but be respectful when in your contrariness. I would ask only to be polite to the people that I bring up on this show. That's all. I don't think that being polite is a bad thing. Look, I say what I don't like on this show. And if you want to take me to task for something you disagree with, you can either ask to come on the show or write a letter, which I've added that to. If you want to write me a letter, please do so. And just know that I'm probably going to read it on the show. I used to say to people, if you write me a letter, tell me if you want me to read it on the show. But I've decided, if you've decided to write me a letter, it's because you want me to read it on the show. And if you don't, I won't, but then you have to say so. But anyway, I think that's part of the character. I think that that's part of what Superman is, rightly or wrongly, is a representation of what America aspires to be. And that's what Superman does. Superman fights for all of us. Whether, your cat's stuck in the tree or there's a nuclear missile coming down on Hackensack, New Jersey, Superman's your guy. He's not going to, and he doesn't, that's why the thing is, he also knows that he can't solve all the world's problems. And to do so, and Jor-El tells him this, you can't get involved in the affairs of humanity. You can't do that. You have to let them do with their lives what they're going to do, rightly or wrongly. And it's a bummer for him. And I think that's one of the great conflicts of Superman. And I don't think it's necessarily been dealt with in an interesting way. And that the idea that Superman stopped a conflict is something that I thought was really interesting. That was the most interesting story point that I felt that was in the trailer for me, is to know that Superman's place and what he can and can't do. Because if he's stopping one problem, one global problem, then the expectation would be that he's going to stop them all. And when he doesn't, people are going to throw cans at his head. And I understand that. And I think that's something interesting. And that's something that we should definitely expect in the stories that have been told. And look, if you want to go read Alan Moore and later Neil Gaiman's Miracle Man, they did a really good job in Miracle Man showing what happens when somebody like a Superman decides, you know what, I am going to take over the world. I am going to make this planet the way I want it to be, rightly or wrongly. I'm going to solve these people's problems. And there's a school of thought that maybe that wouldn't be such a bad thing. But the problem is can you trust somebody to rule benevolently and not go crazy? B Things sends in a chat and says, I was thinking about the death of DVD special features and how much I learned about the craft of filmmaking as a kid before going to film school. I agree. I mean, I was involved. I think about the special features I was involved with, whether it was Lord of the Rings, whether it was X-Men, Chronicles of Narnia, Usual Suspects, Tron, and the 3 years, the Star Trek discs we did. We did, I think, 15 Star Trek discs, if you consider all 7 seasons of TNG and the 4 seasons of Enterprise, and the 5 different discs that we did of the 2-part episodes cut together as movies of TNG. We did special features for those too. I mean, I've created many, many hours of behind-the-scenes footage that I'm really proud of, that I think is invaluable if you want to watch movies. And then all the audio commentaries. I totally agree with you. It's a lost art. And the studios, those only happened because the studios themselves spent the money to make them. So they don't do that anymore. I mean, some people do it, but a lot of the companies, the money is not what it was, and it's very interesting. Darth Plato says, Andor Talk, you and me, this Saturday, it's on. That will be in the member call. I'll be curious to hear what you have to say, man. You know more about the historical things that the Gilroys were drawing upon, so it'll be interesting to hear what you have to say. Michael Preston says, I know it's just the cartoon, but in Justice League, Superman says his life is like living on eggshells while fighting Darkseid. His life is like living on eggshells while fighting Darkseid, and then beats him mercilessly. Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. On one side, you've got Superman, and you could make movies about the moral dilemmas he faces with the power he has, or you can have him fighting giant monsters. And I think James Gunn has figured out a heady mix, a frothy mix to combine those two. I mean, and then what's really interesting is, this is something that's always bothered me. In fan circles, a lot of people would bitch and moan and complain about the end of Man of Steel, how Superman has to kill. Well, I mean, what else is he going to do? He prevented an extinction level event and saved humanity. Where are you going to put Zod? You can't put him in jail. What are you going to, what do you do with him? There's no choice. He had to kill Zod. He had to kill him. I mean, certainly earned it. How many people die in that movie? Tens of thousands in Metropolis. I mean, it's the idea that Superman can't kill Zod. Again, that's an infantile thing to say, especially in the context of the movie. That's another thing. When you have to infer meaning from the text, and I've noticed a lot more people don't seem to know how to do that. And it's great stories and great movies. Everything is not literal. That's the difference between knowing how to watch a movie and being cinema literate. Just like you can know how to read, but are you truly literate? Do you really understand what it is you're reading? And I'm beginning to think that maybe it's because of video games. We have a lot of literalness going on in our world today, and there's a lot less irony is not understood, and a lot of people don't know how to infer meaning that isn't necessarily spelled out for you, but it's definitely in the text. And whether it's Star Wars, especially this discussion about the differences between Rey and Luke, the pilot thing always kills me. Somebody was talking about, over the last couple of days, we were talking about, I addressed the Rey situation, but, this idea, people have thrown this idea at me like, well, Luke being a pilot. And I'm like, how did Rey know? It is not inferred in the text at all that Rey knows how to fly. She has a speeder, but a speeder is different than knowing how to fly. And yet she gets behind the controls of the Millennium Falcon and pilots it like she's been flying the thing. She pilots that ship better than we ever saw Han Solo pilot it. And it's never inferred in the text up to that point in The Force Awakens that she can fly. Whereas in Star Wars, people say, well, Rob, how do we know that Luke can fly? Well, first of all, Ben Kenobi says it. I've heard you're not such a bad pilot yourself. He says it. And then Luke says to Han in Mos Eisley, I'm not such a bad pilot. We don't have to sit and listen to this. He can fly. We know he can fly. Did we see him fly? No. You can see his T-16 Skyhopper in the background in the garage in A New Hope. But Kenobi says it, and then he says it. So how does he know how to fly an X-Wing fighter, and how can he hit the exhaust port? Well, first of all, bullseyeing womp rats and flying around canyons on Tatooine, and you can infer that he knows how to fly. And bullseyeing womp rats, which, by the way, remember, are a moving target. They're rats. They run pretty quickly. If he can bullseye them, we didn't need to see him learn how to fly an X-Wing. It is embedded in the text that Luke is a good pilot. He says it. Other people say it. And then during the Rebel briefing, the guy knows how to fly. And it's a pretty good bet that he didn't just learn to fly his own T-16 Skyhopper. When he was going to Anchorhead, I bet he had experience flying a bunch of shit. And I knew, that he learned how to fix things as well. Rey does not have that. That is not in the text. Anyway, I don't mean to make it about that. The End Podcast says, "Happy birthday, Robert, you great lump of gorgeous." Well, thank you. I don't know what it's like to be a lump of gorgeous, but I'll take it. Gate of Marvel says, "As I'm within the Eastern time zone, I can truly say happy birthday, Rob. Welcome to the 58 Club." Thank you. It feels good. Actually, my entire 50s have felt pretty good. There's nothing that really has changed. Gate of Marvel says, "As I'm within the..." Oh, I already did that. Thank you. Tony Reyes has been a member for 37 months. Batman, is that 11? Oh, Batmat 11. "I agree that the Superman trailer took me out when Clark got frustrated with Lois. That wouldn't happen because of their dynamic and love. Way different than Donner. Did Gunn do that on purpose? Well, I definitely think you can't. See, here's another thing about that. Lois interviewing Clark. James Gunn knows that one of my favorite scenes in any Superman movie is Lois interviewing Clark from Richard Donner's 78 original film. Because you see that Superman's kind of a baller. He understands human behavior. He knows he's cheeky when he sees Lois, what color's my underwear? And then when he finally sees it, he says it. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. Superman is not so much... When you have all the information of the 28 known galaxies that you've been studying for 12 years, when you finally decide to go to New York, you're a fucking baller. You know what's up. You might still be a virgin, but you understand. And I think that's really important. And I think that's something people need to remember. At least I'd like to think so. I could be wrong. You never know. Jet Sangani says, "Happy birthday, Rob." Sends in a tip. You're looking as younger and younger, like Tom Cruise." Well, thank you. "I also randomly booked a small part on a U.S. network TV show before I start my training with the RCMP in July. Hopefully no tariffs. Haha. Thanks for reading my letter." Well, Jet, congratulations. Remember, go get, you can't see him, but go get Michael. If you're joining the RCMP, you got to go get Michael Slade's novels. Michael Slade is a pen name. It was a pen name for 3 people. Now it's a pen name for 1 person. Go get Michael Slade's novels. They're historical novels about Canada, about the RCMP, the Special X division of the RCMP that doesn't exist, and get them and read them in order. Headhunter, Ghoul, Cutthroat, and Ripper. And what's great, it's all about Canadian history and serial killers. What's not to love? And the RCMP. And it's funny because I've asked people in Canada if they know these books, and they don't. The first one came out in 1984. Headhunter and Ghoul are bangers. By the way, don't read anything about them. Don't read the reviews. Just go get Michael Slade's. Remember, those are the first 4. There's a lot more, but the first 4 are really, 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 really good. Remember, Michael Slade, Headhunter, Ghoul, Cutthroat, and Ripper. Get those. Trust me. Report back. You'll like them. So let's see. What else? What else is happening now? I think I'm all caught up, and I have to finish editing a Designing Hollywood because my work is never done. So there we go. Yeah. Okay. Zachary Zabali says, "You have great hair. I hate you." You know what's really funny? People say that. I get that more and more. The hair thing, you know, I mean, you can see I've never thought about it. You know, it's funny. I feel terrible saying this, but I've never once, I think about my hair and I have to groom myself, but I've never thought about it. Because, you know, when you just have it, you take it for granted. One day it's going to fall out. One day I'm going to get like some bald spot back here, and then I'm going to be like, fuck. You know, I'll be looking for all those hair care for men products. But thank you, I appreciate it. Everyone says I should color my hair. I kind of like the color of it. I mean, I like that it's kind of gone gray. I enjoy that. But I'm sorry you hate me for it. Don't hate me because of my hair. It'll go away someday. So, on that note, I'm going to end this discussion about the Superman trailer. Thank you for taking this journey with me. What do you think? Tell me. Go to the comments section and tell me what you think. I'm sure you will. And on that note, I'll be back tomorrow. I probably will be doing a birthday stream because I don't really have any plans. Tomorrow I'll be on the John Campea show, and then I have to drive into L.A. And, there'll be a new Designing Hollywood dropping, a couple of them this week. And I'm actually interviewing Deborah Landis, John Landis' wife, who was the costume designer on Raiders of the Lost Ark. I'm going to be interviewing her on Friday afternoon. I'm really, really excited to interview her. That's going to be fun. And that'll be on Designing Hollywood soon. And on that note, everyone, I want to thank everybody for generously supporting this channel via Super Chats and tips. I want to thank Darth Plato for moderating and everybody who's here. Thank you all for staying and commenting and participating. And thank you for generously supporting this channel via Super Chats and tips and also memberships. And we're going to have a member call this Saturday, which are at 11 for those new members. Anybody who wants to come in and chat, you don't even have to show yourself if you don't want to. But come on in and chat. And how it works is you come in, and I'm usually here for 3 or 4 hours, and you just raise your hand, and you get 7 minutes to speak your piece. And come on in. The water's warm. It's a lot of fun. And you can become a member for 99 cents. It's a bargain. And on that note, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen. Oh, by the way, so my friend in exhibition, before I sign off, I was going to say this up front, but I forgot. He saw Lilo and Stitch. Now, he had never seen the original, and he's not necessarily predisposed to like any of this stuff. He said it was delightful. He liked Mission Impossible, but didn't love it. He loved F1. The new film from the two brothers who made Talk to Me. I can't get the name of it in my head, but he really enjoyed that as well. He thought it was really, really good. He thought it was scary, but in a different way from Talk to Me. And what else did he tell me that he liked? I don't know. Oh, Mission Impossible. He said it's long, and it's basically what everybody has been saying. He was mixed. He said it was a great movie, but was a little bit mixed on it and thought it was, 3 hours might have been stretching it. But for the most part, the things that he said were great were both Lilo and Stitch and F1. He said F1's amazing. So I said that up front. But there you go. So on that note, I'm now going to go home. Actually, I am home. I'm gonna go finish Designing Hollywood and send it because I owe it to them. I will see you maybe tomorrow night. Or if not tomorrow night, then Friday.